Hello, my fellow Americans. Daniel Burton here from the Burton of Truth podcast. It's great to see you here today. So, as you've seen in my other podcasts, I like to discuss a little bit of history. I like to discuss a little bit of what's going on, but we always put some truth in it so that you know what's going on yourself. And so, thus the name Burton of Truth. So here we are. I'm going to first go into how awesome Pennsylvania is, and that's not sarcasm. I want you to look at how great Pennsylvania actually truly is. Pennsylvania, if it were its own country, could be probably one of the most lucrative, richest economies in the world as just our state. We had steel at one time. We have 25 coal plants. We have coal mines, one of the nation's largest underground coal mines in western Pennsylvania, which we'll talk about here, in Greene County, which is also that county's largest employer. That's in western Pennsylvania, down in the southwestern. We have 9 nuclear power plants. As I said, we have natural gas. We have natural gas that rivals the amount of oil in all of Saudi Arabia. We have more natural gas in Pennsylvania. We have international seaport in Philadelphia. We have international airports. We have a National Guard that rivals most countries' militaries in a whole. We have an agricultural economy that feeds a large portion of this nation. Pennsylvania was the birthplace of freedom of religion. It was the birthplace of our country. Pennsylvania is legitimately the Keystone State of this entire republic. And that is how important Pennsylvania is politically, how important Pennsylvania is economically, how important Pennsylvania is from an energy standpoint for this entire country. Pennsylvania is an important place. And so you've heard me also say, if I were the devil, I would absolutely come after those most important things to us and to our nation and to the future of our nation. And right now, we're going to discuss what is coming after our nation and after our state, and what is being illegally done by our governor and through bureaucracy. And so some of you are going to be watching this. Maybe you've seen your electric bill this month. Maybe you haven't. So this entire podcast, I'm going to be basing this on RGGI. RGGI, some of you have heard of it. Most of you haven't. RGGI is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And that was currently, it used to be 11 states in that. And you can guess all those 11 states from Maine all the way to Maryland and Delaware. And we are now the 12th state. New Jersey was in RGGI and then backed out in 2012. This is all green initiative stuff that started under Obama. And then New Jersey joined back in 2020. And basically what RGGI is it's a way for the government or our states to say that their carbon footprint or what their carbon output is as a state through the energy sector is going to be managed and I don't have a better word than manipulated, but that's kind of where we're at. That's where my head is at with this whole headspace. So if you haven't seen your electric bill yet, you better buckle up, maybe have a sip of something before you open up that envelope. As most of you know, I own my own business as well. I opened it up, my electric bill was double what it was last month. Now, some may say that's because it was a lot hotter and I had my AC on. But I also noticed that the rate went up at least 30%. You'll see on your electric bill that we went up at least 30%. Everybody is wondering why. Nobody really has a good answer for that. The answer is RGGI, this Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative that our Governor Wolf illegally and unconstitutionally entered us into because it did not go through the legislature. He used the DEP and got our state signed on with RGGI. And because of RGGI alone, just because of RGGI alone, I'm going to go through some numbers that we saw that we're going to see a decrease within this state within our own economy, and how this governor is destroying our state and our own sovereignty, we shall say, within our economy by shutting down natural gas, by shutting down coal-fired plants, by doing all of these things. So I'm going to hit a lot on this, and you'll understand by the end of this podcast here in just a few minutes as to why RGGI is such a terrible thing for this state, and why it was the only reason it was done unconstitutionally is because it wouldn't have passed the legislature, which it should have been done constitutionally. So good news is we see the Supreme Court, everybody's up in arms about the Supreme Court, but they just voted against the EPA in certain states because the EPA was extending its arm way too far. And I'm hoping that we get to see this, or someone stands up here and brings this case to the Supreme Court, because our governor just got us into RGGI, RGGI, nicknamed RGGI, unconstitutionally and quite factually illegally. And so those of you who are looking at Shapiro as our next governor, if you think Shapiro is going to get us out of RGGI, you have a problem. He will never do it. Virginia, forgive me, we may be down to 11 states in RGGI now, because Virginia has since backed out. It was the first action that governor did, the new governor of Virginia did, was get Virginia out of RGGI, because this is bad news. And so here's a couple things that we're going to talk about here today, and I'll explain to you why it's such a bad decision for us. So the Green Initiative, we'll go back to Obama. There were some green initiatives here within that time period, and we have 25 coal electric plants in Pennsylvania. That's where we get most of our electricity from. We have 9 nuclear power plants, all decades old, probably built in the 50s and 60s, most of them, because we will not allow the cleanest energy that is known to human, other than hydro, the cleanest energy of nuclear we don't allow permits, and we haven't built anything. Side note to that, France is building nuclear power plants the size of 2-story houses. Less heat, less emission, less everything. So the technology is there, but we refuse to do it here because everybody's concerned with 3 Mile Island. Well, 3 Mile Island is now shut down, or in the process of being as such. But that's clean energy. And we have modern technology that makes these nuclear power plants the size of basically a 2-story house. And we're refusing to do any of that here. So that puts us back onto coal, natural gas, wind, solar, and hydro. So that's where we get our energy from. Well, Obama put into place that we needed to put these reclamation filters and everything on all these coal plants. Well, these coal plants upgraded and did all of that. Okay, so they upgraded, they did all of this, spent millions of dollars upgrading so that they literally have such a low carbon emission that everybody's concerned with is a carbon emissions. They have such a low carbon emission because the millions of dollars that they invested into this, that the coal plants are still firing. We have coal as a major industry within Pennsylvania, and that's, with RGGI, is now getting shut down. So now you have all these coal-fired plants that are literally powering our entire state and a large portion of this northeast quadrant, okay? We'll say not necessarily northeast, but how this works is there's grids. There's literally basically 4 major grids in our country, okay? So it's Pennsylvania, south, out to the Mississippi, down to Florida. We have the grid that's New York and up. We have a grid that's basically almost all of west of the Mississippi. And then we have Texas on its own grid, okay? So if you were to go down in King of Prussia, is where a major hub of that grid is down in King of Prussia, right here in Pennsylvania, again, the Keystone State. I was speaking to somebody, and they were in there, and it's like a map on the wall, okay? There's a big map on the wall, and it shows where all the energy is going. It gives the percentages of what energy is from where, and it looks like one of those cool apps, I don't know, Where's Your Water, where you can make the pipes go. So it's basically showing the map of the country and shows you where the power distribution is coming from, where it's going to, how much is from where, what percentages, and so on and so forth. On a busy day, 4% 4% of our energy, of all of our energy, comes from solar and wind. 4. The rest of it comes from, I'd say, I believe it's somewhere around 90% of it, or a large portion of it. At least close to 80% of it comes from coal and nuclear, and the rest is from hydro. Okay? We can't build any more dams, so that's out. And they're cutting out coal through RGGI. So they're expecting that all of this new power is going to come from solar or wind. Meanwhile, solar or wind is not good, especially in a state like Pennsylvania. It costs more in materials. It's more of a carbon footprint to make these materials. And now if you look at specifically Lancaster County, which has some of the richest soils in the world for agriculture, we're talking about making solar farms. So destroying these farms and doing that. Meanwhile, we're shutting down our pipelines. We don't have gas pipelines that are flowing freely. That would make very clean energy, 30% cleaner than coal, all because of this greenhouse gas initiative. So what happens? If you're in business and you know you're getting shut down, you've just invested millions and millions of dollars into your coal furnaces to make them cleaner so that you're reclaiming all of the carbon footprint that's coming out of those stacks. You don't see stacks throwing black coal soot up anymore, right? So you're in business, you have the coal plants, you have the coal mines, you have thousands of employees. You're looking at being shut down because you have an administration right now that is going after everything that has anything to do with fossil fuels, which includes coal, oil, okay? And you have businesses that are going to have to either figure out what they're going to do, or they're going to try to get as much as they can while they can, because they still have debts to pay. They still have employees, they still have pensions, they still have everything. And so thus, when you open up your electric bill, you can thank Governor Wolf for getting us into RGGI, because that is why PP&L is charging you more, or emitted, or whoever you have. That is why. Because unconstitutionally and illegally, we have somebody dictating through the bureaucracy, through the DEP, what you can do, or what these companies can do after telling them 10 years ago that they need to get these filters on and spend millions of dollars. Now they're out and we're not even going to get coal. So let's look at Greene County out in western Pennsylvania. What are they going to do? That's their largest employer. That's the largest coal mine, underground coal mine in the country. Pennsylvania, we're not using natural gas plants. We're using them. Forgive me. We're using all these plants, but we're trying to shut them down. And as we shut them down, and we don't have anything to replace them with, what are we going to do? Are we going to use batteries? Now we're forcing electric cars, which take a huge boost of energy off of the grid. How are we going to power these electric cars? We're not getting gas. We're not getting oil. We're not pumping our own oil. We're spending. So as you hear me say all of these things, energy is where our lifeblood is. If a country can't produce its own energy, they're dead. Japan, we cut off coal to Japan. We cut off steel to Japan. They started having to lift up their old ships in World War II. We were destroying them economically before the atom bombs. Okay, so coal, big one. Why is China importing most of their coal at a discount from Russia? Because we're not doing it now. We are destroying our economy, and you've seen in my other podcast where we're destroying our economy by printing more money and what the Fed is doing, and maybe I'll have another podcast on that. But if we're looking at just strictly Pennsylvania, and we're looking strictly at energy in Pennsylvania, we are hamstringing ourselves, and I don't see how it is anything other than traitorous, but it's being rolled out as a green initiative that's going to help the people to provide for the common welfare of the citizens. That's what the government is for. And right now the government is doing exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. And so now that you understand what RGGI is I'm going to give you some statistics so that you have some battleground, because as soon as you say Reggie to somebody, they're not going to know what you're going to do. And if your left-leaning neighbor says, well, it's a good thing, don't you love the planet? Yes, we love the planet. When we put those filters on for the coal plants, our percentages have gone down at least 30% of carbon emissions in the state. Before we even joined Reggie, we were doing all of this, okay? The natural gas that Pennsylvania now has, used to be natural gas provided about 20% of the gas we were using in this state. Now 20% of the natural gas is provided by Pennsylvania for the entire country, and we're shutting down our pipelines. We're getting our natural gas from out of country, southern countries, the southern hemisphere, spending 3,000 gallons of fuel a day or whatever that astronomical number is to ship that stuff up here when we can do it for free through our own pipelines. Tell me how this is not an absolute destructive power to try to destroy our country. You're paying more at the pump, inflation is up 8.6%, and now you just got hit with a 30 to 40% higher electric bill this month. Thank you, Herr Wolf. Thank you, Joe Biden and your administration of deceit and evil. Thank you for all of those traitorous people that are destroying our country right now. So here's some statistics I got, and these are from 2019, and it's from a white paper that was written by Greg Moreland back in 2019. So I just want to give you some brief statistics here, but just so you know, when a state was in Reggie, so these are statistics from the states that were in Reggie for a long time, okay? So total energy generation in Reggie states fell by 20% from 2005 to 2017. Previously, those states were at 96% of their own electricity needs. They were providing 96% of their own electricity needs before they joined Reggie. After they joined Reggie, it went down 20%. Now they provide 83% of their own energy. And that's from 2005 to 2017. I can only imagine what it is now, okay? So without Pennsylvania being in Reggie, we managed substantially better emission reductions while sustaining the same electricity generation. So let me rephrase that. We didn't join Reggie because we took initiatives in a free market to make things cleaner. We improved better than any of the other states that were in this Reggie disaster, and yet we still provide for 99% of the same amount of energy that we did before. So again, capitalism and free trade and ingenuity at its best. Try and fail as a capitalist, as a person that's about his own business. Try and fail is much better than government direction and regulation. If you don't understand that, then just turn this off. I'm not going to get anywhere to you, but that's where we're at there. So some other numbers. Reggie states lost 34% of energy intensive businesses. So if I make metals, or if I do food processing, or if I make paper products or petroleum refining or chemicals or pharmaceuticals or whatever the industry might be, those Reggie states lost 34% of those high energy using businesses. Why? Because their costs went through the roof. And if they could go to another state and get the same energy at a lower cost, wouldn't you do it if you were saving billions of dollars? Exactly. Pure economics. The left is going to turn this around and blame capitalism for all of this. Mark my words. Please mark this spot in my podcast. Capitalism will be blamed for the fall of our economy that's coming this year, maybe later, maybe sooner. Sometime in the near future, our economy will crash. And those in charge will blame capitalism for that issue, because socialism is becoming this cool thing, even though it's been stewing for the last, we'll say 70 years. It's been stewing a lot longer than that, but in this country, it's been stewing for 70 years. And it's really showing its face now. But now everybody thinks socialism is cool through everything that we're doing. Go woke, go broke, go woke, whatever. So socialism is coming at us hard, and now they're going to blame capitalism for this. They're going to blame capitalism for the COVID, everything that has to do with COVID. They're going to blame capitalism for how our economy is crashing and inflation. They're going to blame everything. And just imagine if the government had control over business. Cap and trade would be so great. If we just produced our own things, we should have the government produce our own energies. So right here we see RGGI, a government bureaucracy that drops the production or drops energy intensive businesses by 34%. By the same token, for example, like in our state, when we didn't have RGGI, we dropped by 5%. Those states lost maybe 5% of that production. So I can't make it any clearer than that. PA Energy Development supports about 330,000 direct and indirect jobs in this state. About $34.7 billion of the Commonwealth's economy. Let that sink in. 34.7%, $34.7 billion of the economy. And this is in 2019. Was through energy, natural gas, coal. Okay, got me? This just makes me sick to my stomach. But the proposition that PA joins RGGI, or back in 2009, according to this white paper and Greg Moreland, the proposition that PA joins RGGI is already influencing businesses looking to locate in PA. RGGI is a substantial threat to economic growth realized through drilling. So they're talking about natural gas with that statement. But if you were a company and you found out Pennsylvania was moving to RGGI, would you move out? Or would you even move here in the first place? If I'm a company and I just received the electric bill that I just did just because of RGGI, you're darn right I'm looking to go out. What does that do to our population? What does that do to our workforce? What does it do to our economy? So, again, I've said it before, the best way for us to grow is to take away the restrictions, okay, the regulations that are being unconstitutionally placed on all these businesses, whether it's the coal mines, whether it's this, whether it's that, everything that is happening to our state right now from an increase, you know, they're going to blame, oh, it's just inflation, that's why your electric bill lost. Your electric bill didn't go up because of inflation, a little bit, okay. It went up because of RGGI and the unconstitutional illegal actions of Tom Wolf. If you want this to change, you better vote in November. And it better not be how Biden called for it. Okay? If Shapiro wins, this doesn't go away. Everything gets worse in Pennsylvania, and the Keystone State is lost. And quite frankly, if we lose the Keystone State, our country is lost. If we lose the Keystone State. Elections matter. Election integrity matters. Work on all of that. I had so much more I wanted to cover with you guys here today. I hope I gave you an insight into what RGGI is. And if you're angry about what your electric bill is and you open it up, I just explained to you why. I just explained to you the economics of it, Economics 101. I just explained to you where it's going and how it's getting there. There's these collaborations of states and whatever you want to call it, but currently Pennsylvania just joined this RGGI not too long ago, you know, and here we are. This is why. Those businesses and electricity providers can't afford to do the business, so they have to raise their rates. And they're going to be the ones blamed, and then capitalism is going to be blamed, and then they're going to try to make it social, just like affordable health care. It's going to be cheaper once the government is in control of it. How did that work out? Once the government is in control of energy, how's that going to work out? How did it work out for Venezuela? How's it working out for Cuba? My next podcast, I'll go over what happened in Venezuela on the timeline there. But Venezuela crashed to the government killing its own citizens and anybody standing up against the government within 20 years. And they were the third richest country in the world in the early 2000s or late 90s. They were the second largest purchaser of F-150s in the 90s. And the government came in and started doing things like this. And elections were manipulated. Socialism took over. And here we are. Now Venezuela is poor. Their people are being persecuted and killed by their own government. Oh, and don't worry, Venezuela took all their guns from their citizens about 10, 12 years ago. So if you enjoy higher gas prices, if you enjoy electricity, if you stayed this long and you enjoy all those things, and you listen to this long after 24 minutes, 25 minutes, hats off to you. But this impacts every single one of you. Your neighbors, your friends, your family. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you have to at least see at this point that they do not care who you are. They do not care about you. They do not care about your lives. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you can stand with them because you're a hardcore Democrat. You can stand with them right until the time where they come after you too. Because they're coming after everything. Your livelihood is changing every moment, every day, right now. The only way you do this is stand up. Stand together, because all they're trying to do is divide you so that you can't stand up. Stand together. Democrat, Republican, Independent, I don't care. This is not America anymore. Are we going to change our name to the USSA? Because that's what this Reggie is leading us to. That's what inflation is leading us to. That's what open borders leads us to. That's what printing more money in a time like this and raising interest rates all at the same time. Do you really think the Fed cares about you? Do you really think that they're that dumb to allow this to happen? No. This has all been a plan, and this is an attack. What are you going to do about it? American, what are you going to do about it? Not Democrat, Republican, what are you going to do about it? It's time to stand. It's time to stand. Solar and wind ain't going to do it. It ain't. Electric cars take coal-fired electric plants to power those electric cars. So you go buy that $70,000 electric car, how's it going to be driving if we don't have the coal power to do it? So my call to action for you is research Reggie, get in line, stand up, stand against this, maybe bring a lawsuit up, maybe be the next person. Maybe it'll be you, Jingleheimer Schmidt versus Reggie versus Tom Wolf in PA in the Supreme Court hearing. Maybe it's you, maybe it's me. But this is unconstitutional, illegal, what's being done to every single citizen of this state. Every single one. Stand up. Stand tall. Put on the armor of God. Seek and speak the truth. Continue to follow. Please click and subscribe. Follow me here. I'll give you as much truth as I can moving forward. But thank you. Have a fantastic and blessed day. God bless America. And may all of you, and myself included, learn how to bless God again with America. Thank you. Have a great day.